Howdy folks, aren't thirds cool? Thirds just sound fantastic. We're going to go over why they sound fantastic, how to use them and incorporate them into your blues playing. I was particularly struck by thirds when Matt Schofield, who's a wonderful blues player, said once it's all about the thirds for me, and I thought, right, if he's saying that, I really need to check this out. That was some years ago and I really think about the thirds a lot whilst I'm playing. So this chord progression starts like a normal blues, 4 bars of G7, and then 2 bars of C7, 2 bars of G7. Now, then it goes to B7. We'll go over why in a minute, okay? Then it goes to E minor 7. Then it goes to A minor 7. And then it goes to D7. So let's just go over why that works. We know what a standard blues is. I'm not going to go over that now. This blues, on the last 4 bars, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a bit of a sort of jazzy turnaround, but it sounds really cool. And we're using what we call the 3 chord, the 6 chord, the 2 chord, and then the 5 chord. That's a 1. You'll have heard of in jazz you get 2-5-1, so there's a little 2-5-1 at the end with the A minor 7, D7, that's G7. Alright, but basically, without going into too much detail, it's about descending in fifths, going 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So what am I doing with all this third business? Right, so over the start of it, the G chord, what I'm thinking is this. A line like that. Now this is kind of B.B. Kingish. I'm thinking the root, and I'm working up to the major third there, yeah, via the 2 and a little chromatic passing note. Then I'm doing this. Then I'm bending to the minor third. B.B. King does this a lot. He plays around with that major third and minor third a lot, and it just sounds cool. It sounds very bluesy, doesn't it? And then vibrato. Then what I did was this. Right, now this is just a arpeggio of the G7. Now where does it end up? It ends up on this major third here. This arpeggio, I'm getting this from my what I call my cross system. That's there was a video on it about 3 or 4 videos back. I'll link to it just there, so click on that. The full cross system is on my Patreon page. It's a really big study. There's 8 separate lessons on how to chord tone solo really simply, but that's where I'm getting it from. Right, ending up on the G. Then I'm thinking I'm kind of round here, so I want to find a C round here next maybe. When I did the G here like this, I might see the C here. Right, and then I could go to the G. I could think of this G note here, and I could see this arpeggio here. So all the time I'm thinking about these chord tones and trying to find notes in the chord, particularly the thirds, all right? And I'm seeing this, the third of the G here, the third of the G here, in the arpeggio. I'm seeing the third of the G here, and then the third of the C here, third of the C. So let's talk a little bit about why these thirds are so good. Why aren't we targeting root notes? Why thirds? Why are thirds so cool? So let's just go back to this G chord, right? So let's talk about the third of the G, right? So this is the third of the G here, right? Right, which is, if you look at it, it's a B note, yeah? Now, if I'm coming from the C7 chord back to the G chord, right? When I play this note, this B note, it's very clear I'm on the B chord. I can't play that note over the C chord. It's going to clash really badly because it's a semitone below the root in the C, isn't it? So it's just not going to work at all. So when I go back to this, it's really clear I've gone back to G, right? Now, what would happen if I was on the C7 chord and I played a G note when I go back to G? You'd think that'd be great, wouldn't you? You think it would strongly indicate that I've gone back to the G chord, but there is quite a big problem with it. this G note is in the C chord. So if I'm playing over a C7 chord and I play a G note, right, when it goes back to the G, it kind of still sounds like I'm in C because this is in the chord. If I play the B note, it's very clear that I've gone back to the G chord. All right. So this is one of the reasons why thirds are so strong, because they tend to be quite unique to the chords in the blues progression, and it signals very strongly you've moved to that chord. Let's do it the other way around. Let's go from the G7 to the C7. So if I target this note when I go to C7, right? So this note is an E. Now if I compare that to what's going on in G, well, it's a 6 in the G. So it's not too bad over the G. It's not terrible, but it's not a chord tone, right? So when I play this note, it's quite clear that I've gone to the D chord. And this is part of the reason why the thirds are so strong, and therefore you should target them when you change from one chord to another, right? So when I'm over that G7 and I'm thinking C, I'm often going to target the chord tone on beat 1, like that, yeah? And then back to the G, there. Or something like that. The thirds obviously all over the place, right? Now, for the rest of the chord progression, we've got the last 4 bars. We've got this B7 to E minor 7 to A minor 7 to D7. I could do it there. So over what I was doing over the B, B7, I'm seeing my major third there, and I'm going to target that there. And then I know the next chord is going to be E minor 7, all right? So I'm going to target that note there. Okay, so I've got those two underneath each other. Now, how do I know where these thirds are? I know because of the chords. I'm seeing this B7 chord here, and then I'm seeing this chord. Yeah, then when it goes to A minor 7, I'm then kind of thinking of the A minor pentatonic scale a little bit. And I'm seeing that minor third there. And then I want to target the D. Okay, well, I could see that D there and see that major third there. I could jump all the way up there, okay? But all the time I'm trying to find these major thirds, and often I'm doing it either by thinking about the chord, right? And when I see the chord, I know in that like E-shaped bar chord there, which is like an E7 shaped bar chord, I know that's the major third. So I know if I'm doing a B chord, I know that's the major third. So I won't play that chord, I'll just target that note. Yeah? Then I'm seeing a root note there, flat 7. Now for that root note, I might think of that major third there. Yeah? So I'm sort of seeing them all over the place. They're like kind of lighting up to me and saying, play me, play me, play me, right? And then I'm seeing that note, and there's an E there. Yeah, and I might see that minor third there. What was I going to next? I'm going to the A minor, aren't I? So, but I might see this A here, see that minor third there, or that minor third there. Yeah, and I'm going to target those so that, and then maybe add the 5 in and the flat 7. Yeah, and then back to the D. There's a D note. Now I'm seeing this D major arpeggio here. Flat 7. So all the time thinking of chords, thinking of chord tones, but really hammering those thirds, yeah? So to ham this up, what you want to do is, first of all, play over the top of it and just find the thirds. So you could do this. 1, 2, 3, then find a different third, and then maybe a different third there, and then thirds of the C. Just find all these thirds, and then we're back to G. Now I'm over the B, so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm over the E. Now I'm over the A, and then finally I go over the D, and then I'm back to the G. So that's a little exercise there, which is really hard to talk and do at the same time, but I think I got it all right. In that I'm just targeting the major thirds. I'm just playing through that progression, targeting the major thirds, okay? So do check me out on Patreon. A lot of this stuff is coming out of caged ideas. There's loads of stuff on there about caged, and I've introduced caged and triads and caged and pentatonic scales. obviously caged, targeting chord tones. It all links with that really well, because I am thinking caged a lot as I'm playing there at the same time. There's that cross system on there. There's loads of good stuff on there. Super good value for money. Remember to like and subscribe, always important. Any questions, put them down below. Questions are always great, and catch you next time.